keep us all dumbed down and hope that they will never see the truth around. Another promise, another scene, another package lie to keep us trapped in greed. Another green bells wrapped around our minds, an endless red tape to keep the truth confined. They will not force us. They will stop degrading us. They will not control us. We will be victorious.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in. Tonight, I have a special guest, Chrstina, affected by the train derailment in East Palestine. You guys have probably seen her a number of times on the show. And I am so glad to have you back because things are ever changing. I feel like every time I talk to you guys, something new has happened, whether it's with lawsuits or environmentally or monetarily or, politician wise. So, first, I'm going to ask broadly. I know that you are starting a letter writing campaign with
Right.
the residents in East Palestine. So, can you touch on that?
So I went to uh, the village council in East Palestine, and I think it was middle of August or September. And I said, hey, um, we wanted to talk to you about maybe doing this letter campaign. Uh, how it started really was at a council meeting where Jamie Wallace had brought up about the village not really acknowledging the health issues. And so Trent, the mayor, Trent Conaway, he had gone and said he agreed with her that if there was something that we could do to write letters to the vice president or somebody that all of us have had contact with, then probably do something like that. And so then I reached out to Trent and I asked him, and him and I met together one day, and we talked about it. And then he approached the rest of council, and they had agreed to it. They thought it was a good idea. And then I went to a council meeting, and he brought it up at the council meeting, and they went ahead and said, yeah, we'll do this. What it is we are going, and anybody within the 20-mile radius can write a letter to JD Vance and write in there about why they think that we need medical care in the future, and maybe what that would mean to them or anything like that. But it would have to be put into a sealed envelope. Nobody's name on the front except that it's going to JD Vance. And that way everything stays confidential within those envelopes. And then we're still discussing about how we're delivering it. The idea, from what I've talked to some of them about, was that if they had 80 to 100 letters, then we would find a way to deliver it together to possibly to JD Vance's office, or they would mail it through the post office. They would record themselves mailing it. The letters are supposed to be brought into the council building, or mailed to the village council, so that they're kind of like the central point for all the letters to go to. I had offered too that if people didn't feel comfortable getting them to the council because of the mistrust issues, that we could arrange for me to have the letters, and it would be the same setup, sealed envelope, nobody's name on the front except for JD Vance, and then I would deliver them. So the last I heard, they did start getting some letters in. We had the meeting for the council where they had agreed upon that was in October, the middle of October. And they gave us until November 15th to get the letters in to the council.
So for everyone watching, there's two really important things about this. Number one, JD Vance was from East Palestine area. He used to be, he used to oversee Ohio, and he actually did have East Palestine's back in one of the hearings that was actually not even about East Palestine. And he brought them up and totally, owned the people in the court, sticking up for people in EP. So we had a lot of hope when he became VP, even if only for that reason. A couple months ago, he comes out, he does a press conference. Oh my God, I'm like, still with EP. Here's what's going to happen. Absolutely nothing happened. The other important thing that we've discussed thus far is Mayor Trent Conway. The interesting thing about the mayor is this is a man who has completely dismissed, disregarded, insulted, you name it, made the statement that if he had to do it all over again with a controlled vent and burn, he would. Just been egregious in every way, shape, or form for over 2 years. So the fact that now he's saying, yeah, we should do a letter writing campaign. Unfortunately, we've seen this a lot where people are, they fight against, any kind of activism or anything for the people of EP unless and until they get sick or people they love get sick or they are directly impacted themselves at some point. But in any case, him changing his tune and now saying, yeah, we should do that. Even with Jamie, shout out Jamie, EP Shitster. She's been on the show many times. You guys know her. So this is a big deal that the mayor of EP is finally stepping up, whatever his reasons may be.
I did talk to him a little bit beyond the letter campaign, and I had mentioned to him how I had wanted to talk to him and the fire chief, Keith Drabick, about like what their experiences were, what went on, that everybody has their story. So when we talked, he said, he had said that if he had to do this all over again, he would. But then he said, now that the NTSB information has come out, there's all this new information coming out. He did say, he can't speak for the fire chief, but would he do it again? No.
And that's pretty fucked up. It took 2 years for him, 2 years of people with blood coming out of their ears and nodules on their lungs and the most awful things, most awful health issues, and having some living in their car, some living in hotels because they can't even go home. And now, over 2 years later, he's finally relenting and saying, okay, maybe you guys were right.
We also had talked about the remediation a little bit. And I believe it was in October, it might have been a little bit earlier. I think it was earlier, like August, whenever the Norfolk Southern had said the cleanup is done and they're going. So he brought up, he'd like the EPA to come in to council and tell them it's clean. Because then why are people still smelling things? Why are people still sick? Which is the same thing, that we have a question of is why are people still sick and why are we still smelling it then? Especially whenever it rains.
Yeah.
I've gone like not so much lately, but I've gone to the creeks a lot through the last over 2.5 years now. And my most recent visit, they were still actually in an area that was up by the tracks. There was a diesel leak there and from an old gas station. And they had the contractors and part of another cleanup procedure thing through the state of Ohio had gone and poured cement into the creek to kind of seal off the diesel from going into the creek. And when they had done that, we were like, wait, I don't think that you can pour concrete or cement into a creek. But I went back there and I checked. And it was supposed to, from what I understood them telling us, was that was supposed to block off the sheen that was coming in from the diesel leak. So then because they seemed to think that that's the only thing that was contaminating the creek right there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went back, though, after the cement was poured, I went up upstream from where the cement was poured, and I still found sheen. Well, the creek don't flow that way.
Right.
So where's the sheen coming from? It's
right.
also back in wooded area, and it's just below a small railroad trestle. And it's also from where the creek flows. It goes like from the wetlands, which is after the derailment site. Then it goes down through, like travels by the derailment site, like the railroad tracks are there, and then the creek. And then there's buildings and homes. And when the derailment happened, there was petroleum lube oil that spilled right into the creek.
Mm-hmm.
And that went down all the way through town and everything that, that we've seen for the last 2.5 years. But all the way through there, all the way through town, down, traveled eventually to the Ohio River, and they tracked that plume almost to Cincinnati. And so I really doubt that all of that sheen would be coming from just a fuel leak from a gas station.
Right. Right. And to people who haven't seen the photos, the sheen, it literally looks like a rainbow. Like it looks like you take oil, when you put oil in water and it swirls, but it's rainbow. Definitely not something in a non-man-made creek. Excuse me. Also, you might be thinking, why would they pour concrete into a creek? What about fish? There are none. They all died over 2 years ago. There is no, nothing in that water that would, be harmed with concrete because they all washed up. what was it? Something like 30,000 fish washed up that first week after the
I
train derailment.
I think the total was like 45,000 fish, and there were some minnows that were coming back. And even when I went up there, up to the area that's upstream, there are minnows. But the EPA or Ohio EPA has said before that that's not really a creek that supports a lot of wildlife anyway. But we saw that there was none, and
Yeah.
then there were some, so it does support some wildlife. uh,
Right, right.
but I even down in Leslie Run, where they say that that's the creek that that Sulphur Run, which runs by the tracks, flows into. And even in Leslie Run, there have been fish that have come back and some crayfish, but it's not recovered. They say it is recovered. They said it a few months after the derailment happened, but there's no way.
Yeah. Because I mean, you've seen the inside of those fish. And yeah.
Yeah. And I grew up here
Mhm.
often. I mean, I grew up here and there were a lot more fish in Leslie Run. um, but I I don't trust that it's clean.
Yeah,
Clean,
absolutely.
the soil's not clean. The wetlands, I would not say are clean. The air is not clean. I
Mhm.
would not. I don't agree with that. Nor
And
for
the
the
interesting thing is, I think a lot of people are presumptuous that as time goes on, it gets better. But I've been to EP 4 times, and the worst was the last time. It seems like it's just fermenting more, or something is happening where it feels like it's getting stronger. I know I've been getting sicker, each time I come. The last time I went, I was like, just beyond in bad shape. Um, so it's almost like, is that how you feel too? Like it's almost kind of getting worse?
I don't know because I live here.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true.
but I have noticed when even like so Pittsburgh is an hour from me. It's
Right.
like an southwest or southeast of here. And I've gone down there a couple times and I notice immediately I am very susceptible to the smells of engine, like car engines, smog. Um, it stinks to me
Mhm.
down there. And I grew up in Pittsburgh too. Like my grandparents lived up there, and I was there every other weekend and wouldn't get sick. But now
Yeah.
I go to Pittsburgh and I feel like, like I've got the dizziness, my head feels kind of like lightheaded. I get migraines, but when I come back, it all goes away.
Yeah.
And for some people, when they leave, they get sick.
Right. Right. So, as far as, medical issues, we you kind of keep me updated with people and everything, but the lawsuit, the class action, that deals a lot with, medical.
Mhm.
Where does this stand?
The So the personal injury is all that's been paid, paid out. Um, they they did not pay at all. Not all the people have been paid. Um, I know, I don't have a lot of neighbors, but um, my neighbors, I only know, I think 3 people who have gotten any money from it, and none of them got what they were supposed to possibly get. My one set of neighbors are close to 80 years old, and in my area we were supposed to receive up to $5,000 for personal injury, and they each received 2,500, I think. So together they received what they were supposed to as an individual. But then there's some people who, according to this whole audit and everything that's going on with Kroll was the original settlement administrator until late this year. I mean, like August, I think. And then they were removed as the administrator by the judge, and now Epic is the new settlement administrator, and they're conducting an audit of Kroll and everything with the payments. But there's some people who were overpaid. And so now what? Like, is there
And
money?
were they people who keep their mouths shut?
I don't know. I don't know who any of them are. The only people I know are people who were paid less than what they were supposed to have gotten. And they were people who didn't ever say anything. Or
And you know, the thing is, even if they were paid what they said they'd get, the huge stipulation of this was that when you signed that paper saying you were taking this, it was a settlement, meaning you cannot sue them for a single thing in the future. Meaning, right now, you're acknowledging you're taking this because you have suffered in some way, but 2 years down the line, you get cancer, you sign the form. Oh, well. So that was a huge deal for people to decide, should I sign this and just try to pay the doctor bills and things I have now? Or should I continue to fight? It's a hostage situation because you guys are still in an area that makes you sick, and your homes aren't being bought out. You're not given health care. So, as far as what's that?
I don't know if she wants me to mention her name, but there's a person close to us who has tried to sell her home for over a year. Her
Yeah.
family has, and they are so sick living in that house, and they cannot sell their home, and now they're having to take out a mortgage
Right.
as retired people, just to be able to get out and be possibly healthy again,
Yeah.
and hope that they can sell their home.
And they've lowered the price numerous times, right?
I think so, yeah.
But it's like, that's the dilemma as well. We need the money to sell this house. We have to sell it to get the money to move. But number one, who's going to buy this house because it's completely contaminated and making us sick? And number two, we don't want to sell it and give it to someone else and make them sick. So what do? It is 100% a hostage situation. And if Norfolk, or no fucks given, as we call them, if they cared even the slightest bit, and it would have made their lives a lot easier if day one they just bought all you guys out, your health wouldn't have been affected. Yes, you would have had to leave your town that you love, where you grew up, and a lot of people have had multi-generational homes there. That would be heartbreaking. That would be really difficult. However, your health wouldn't have been affected. You wouldn't have had to consider sleeping in your car or trying to afford a hotel just so you don't get sick from staying in your own bed. They could have done that from the get, and you guys could have, this would have been a totally different situation. But from day one, they fought you guys. and they continue to do so. And they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Even with our own attorneys that were with the class action and the court system, like, you know, there's so many people who say the court system is messed up in this country anyway. And I've never, you know, I was always told not to trust lawyers. So I didn't trust them to begin with going in here, but you had no choice because how else are you going to go sue?
Right.
But with the whole court system, when they said you have, if you want to take the settlement, you basically have 30 days to sign it. And at the time, um, you know, there were so many of us that were, our mind, like our mind was still being traumatized. We were still
Sure.
going through remediation. We were still trying to ask for help for medical stuff. We were still sick. We are still sick.
Yeah.
And you're going to, and we're concerned about our family, our homes, our environment, our animals that are sick. And like, now you're going to tell us you got 30 days to sign your rights away.
Yeah.
And you have up to a year, even if you don't take the class action. You only have up to, if you're over 18, you only have up to a year to sign those rights away. Like after that, your statute of limitations is up. So
Mhm.
you have to make these decisions, like I've said to people, under duress
Yeah.
is what it is.
Absolutely.
So like,
Absolutely.
this is, my mind was not in the position to make that kind of decision with the information I had and with, you know, the state of mind I was in, to like, I didn't take the personal injury. And I have a child, you know, people have seen him on here. He's 6.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make that decision for the rest of my child's life.
Right.
When it could depend on, like, it could be a life or death situation for him. And I'm not going to make that decision. He has until he's like in his like 20 because he's a minor. But years from now, there might be more research on the multiple chemicals and what we've been exposed to, or there might not. But I left it kind of like his choice to do with what he wants when he gets older, because he can't make that decision now. Some people wanted him to. They wanted him to sign the paper for himself or me hold
Yeah.
his hand to sign it. And I was like, no, because what's going to happen is when he turns 18, he could say that I went and made him sign that paper.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that was astounding. Out of all this, I've been covering this story since the day it happened, almost going on 3 years ago. And there's so much batshit crazy things, in involving this story. But having people hold their toddlers' hands to sign the lawsuit, that to me is just like so far beyond bananas. And the fact that they were having people do that is just absolutely incredible.
At the time, he was 4. Like, he could, he could hardly even talk,
Wow.
but he don't understand what happened. I
Right.
mean, he knows, he saw what happened,
Yeah.
and he's learned a lot from it too. But like, there's no way that a 4-year-old could make that choice.
No. And so many people, when you were talking about being under duress, so many people I've spoken with in EP and surrounding areas have PTSD. It is very, very real. Now, you live a few miles outside of EP. You actually live in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
For those who don't know or may not be you know, a viewer, prior when I was actually going to EP and doing the visits, I have stood in Pennsylvania and in East Palestine at the same time. Like it is literally touching each other. So Chrstina is on the PA side. And of course, we know chemicals do not have an invisible wall. They are not going to stop from going into Darlington and other areas in Pennsylvania. But you saw everything. So is it 5.8 miles?
Yeah, 5.8, 5.9.
And what was your experience when you saw everything happen that day, when you went out on your porch and could still see that even though you're 5.8 miles away?
When the actual derailment happened, you could, when it happened, I was getting ready to put my son to bed. And I read on Facebook that it happened. And I told my dad, because we live with him, and I'm in the woods. And so we were like, my dad said, well, let's go outside and see if we can see anything. It was 6 degrees outside. I went out there, no shoes on, and stood on the porch, my son, my dad, and I. And it looked, to compare it to an image that people were more familiar with, it looked like in the movies, whenever you see, or on the news, when you see the California wildfires, like up on the hill or in the mountains out there, that's what it looked like from 6 miles away. At 11:30 at night, it looked like sunset because there was so much fire and light. You could still see the smoke going up in the air at midnight. Um, and then when the vent and burn happened, um, that was more towards, it's like 4:15, 4:30. And since it was February, it was sort of like on the edge of getting dark out. Um, which, according to the rules for a vent and burn, they're not allowed to do it at sunset. It has to be out before sunset, and it wasn't.
Right.
Um, but they had, when they did the vent and burn, initially, I was watching the news and I was expecting you would hear the boom from here. They're blowing up freaking railroad cars. What do you think is going to happen? Um,
Right.
so it was kind of like, what's about to go on? Because where I'm at, we were never told to evacuate. We were never told to shelter in place, or stay
A lot
indoors.
of people who were like a mile away weren't even told. I
No,
mean,
and then
it's
people that
incredible.
across the street from each other that weren't told to evacuate. Um, and so when they did the vent and burn, initially you couldn't see anything. You didn't hear it happen. I saw it happen on the news, and then I'm like, oh, it happened? I didn't hear anything. And so I went outside with my then 4-year-old, and we walked up the hill to the neighbors, because from up, like, we're kind of like in a little dip. And when you walk up the hill to the neighbor's house, you can look straight out to East Palestine. And you could see the plume of smoke going up. And as time went on, you could see that plume getting closer and closer and closer. Then, before it reached me, it was dark. I went out at midnight, to see if I could hear, or if I could see or smell anything, because I wasn't feeling good by midnight that night. And so I just thought I was getting sick. But I went out and I looked up at the sky, and you couldn't see the moon or the stars. And then I went out again at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you could. And somewhere around that time is whenever the winds had shifted and it started blowing more towards the north, and I'm to the south, um, well, southeast. And uh, not long out, like in the days that followed, I kept being sick, and I stayed sick almost every day for 8 months.
Yeah, I
And then
remember.
changed.
And for people who aren't familiar or who have forgotten over the past, going on 3 years, when we say vent and burn, we're talking about how they thought that the best idea was to set everything on fire and watch the chemicals burn off.
Mm-hmm.
That was the genius plan. Chrstina, do you want to touch on that more?
So, like the vent and burn is like they put an explosive on the top of the rail car, and they put an explosive on the bottom of the rail car, and they dig a pit so that when they detonate it, the I believe the bottom one is the one that gets detonated first, because then the fluids kind of like seep out into this pit, and then they blow it up so it all goes at the same time. But um and it kind of keeps this like a burn pit where, so vinyl chloride is the chemical that was in the 5 cars that they blew up, and they empty the vinyl chloride into the pit, and it lights on fire and burns off into the atmosphere. When I was in the fire department years ago, we were told a controlled burn was something that you have control of, like it's in an enclosed area, or kind of like a wildfire when they get them under control. You have the ability to know where that fire is going.
That's what I don't understand. It's out in the open and they're calling it a controlled
Atmosphere
burn.
ceiling.
It it's
Oh,
incredible.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, it just the the smoke plume blew, it blew southeast, it blew to the east, it blew to the northeast, it blew to the north. I think at some point it blew a little bit to the west, like
You made
northwest.
it up to Canada, right?
Yeah, there's been some studies that have shown that it actually affected 16 states and Canada, some of Canada. Um, Originally we were hearing people's reports from, I think it was Vermont or New Hampshire, that their snow was a different color and that they weren't feeling well. Um, I haven't heard anything from them lately. Uh, no, my dad.
Eddie. That's my buddy.
Give the dog my food. But we there, like, I've seen a report too where there was actually some of the chemicals even made it to Wisconsin, which is
Wow.
totally over, the opposite direction from east. But
Yeah.
um it was something with the patterns of the wind, and it was a very scientific document that was kind of hard to understand. But um yeah, so it went everywhere. I mean, it probably even affected parts of Washington D.C., and they just act like everything's fine.
Right. What is new, if anything, as far as legislatively, as far as, in the area in DC? Have you gotten more supporters? Have has anything changed whatsoever as far as, any kind of um political help? All the politicians who, I've spoken to about it, who say they're going to do something, all the ones Jamie met with in DC. Has anyone come up and said, you know what, like, this is bullshit, it's time, we need to step up?
We with this letter campaign, it's kind of a reminder to JD Vance. He came here in February and he said that if there were unmet needs in the community 6 months from then, that we would come back and we would talk about it. It's now 9 months later and he's not been back. Now the government's shut down.
And you were told that 2 years ago from Biden.
And
Yeah.
we were told when RFK Jr. ran, when he was running for president, that if he was president, then he would make sure that East Palestine had gotten some help and stuff. And now that he's even part of the health department, we've not heard anything really from him. There are some people that are kind of working along with him that we just started hearing from.
And that's good. And I know about that. But here's the thing. If it's going on behind the walls, and it's like, maybe this will happen, or I'm thinking about this, cool. What does that do for residents? It does absolutely nothing. These, they don't have the balls to come out and say, look, something needs to be done. I will work on this. Or, because you guys are just left hanging, like, maybe, well, someone might help. They said they might do this, but it's like, that's
Meanwhile,
that's all you guys have to grasp onto.
there's people still here that are getting sicker, people dying of cancer.
Yeah.
People who have already died. They're like, the animals are sick. There's probably some of them that have died. I know I've lost chickens.
I see. You
But
sent me pictures about 2 years ago. You texted me pictures of their eggs. And
yeah,
I have never seen something so disturbing in my life. I couldn't eat eggs for like the longest freaking time. It looked like a science experiment or something out of a monster movie.
my
Or
my eggs, not my eggs, my chicken's
right,
eggs.
the chicken's eggs.
Clarify. But no, my chicken eggs, they were like squishy, kind of like a stress ball. And even now, we quite often get little tiny ones that look like a pebble from our chickens.
What?
And we've tried to hatch our chicken eggs. They don't hatch. They develop so far and then they just die.
Wow.
They we had
They
10.
had some really weird shapes too.
Yeah,
Really weird shapes.
the eggs changed color. We had brown eggs at the beginning, and then we had a couple chickens that would lay. There was one chicken that would lay a green egg, and another chicken that would lay a blue egg, and that's normal for different kinds of chickens. But when the derailment happened, they changed color. The blue egg turned to a green egg, and then the green egg, that it was originally like a darker green, and then it became a lighter green, almost white. We had 10 chickens at the beginning. Now we have 3 chickens and a rooster.
And you lost several cats too.
Yeah, we had because we live out kind of like in a farm area. We had a lot of stray cats in the area, and we put food out for them and water and stuff so that they have something to eat. And we had like 30 cats out here after they bred for the springtime. And even this past spring, there were like 30, and now we have 9. And the kittens live to be about 3 months old, and then they die. And it's not like they just die like here and there they die. It's just like boom, they're dead within like a week.
Yeah.
And actually, like, a thing that was kind of disturbing to me to think about was, because you worry about people dying because
Mhm.
people get sick. And you think about, like, back when, say, like the bubonic plague, when it happened, so many people were dying, their bodies were thrown out in the streets. um when these cats died, they died so fast that you get numb to it. And I was driving home the other night, and I hit a groundhog. I used to cry like a big baby when I'd hit a groundhog or any kind of animal. And I'd be like, "Oh my god, I hit the animal. I feel so bad." I was driving, I hit it. I tried to not hit it. I tried to avoid it. But I hit it, and I'm just like, "I'm sorry, buddy." And just drove. Didn't cry. And I'm like, "Why am I not crying? What is wrong with my brain?" And, like, that's messed up. Because, like, I cried before, and I cried, like, I've had pets die before where, like, our dogs got old and they died, and I sat with them as they passed away,
Yeah.
and I cried.
Do you
But
think maybe it's desensitization for self-preservation in a way?
I think so, because it's like, you see 1, you see 2, you cry, you see 3, you cry, 4. And
Yeah.
it's so fast. Like, you can't believe it. And then now that it's been 2 years and it keeps happening, we didn't have the problem before. And it
Yeah.
keeps now you're like, well, you're just gonna expect for it to happen.
But it is daunting to think, if this is happening with animals, what is going on with people?
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just here that it's happening. I think we should bring that up. Like, there's a community in Roseland, Louisiana, that had a big uh explosion at I think it's like a refinery manufacturing place for oil products. Um, they had one a few months ago, and the plant exploded, and they had a fire, and it literally rained oil on miles of area. And the people have been sick down there. Their animals have been sick. The trees are dying. The animals are dying. There was the independent researcher that was up here helping us. He went down there, Scott Smith, and he's done testing down there and stuff too. And he's finding these high levels of things down there that he's talked about on interviews and things. And when he first, one of the first times, if not the first time he went down there, he had posted these videos of these dogs that were like abandoned on the side of the road, the highway, and he was feeding them when he went down. And then he went back. Somebody that he was doing testing for decided to adopt one of the dogs. And um, I think that they've also tried to find homes now for the other ones. But recently he posted, or somebody, a community member down there had posted a video of their pet. Um, that's walking around. You know, whenever you put booties on a dog's feet and
Yeah, the way they like
they're like wobbling.
shaking them off.
Yeah. This dog was running around the front yard like that with no booties on its feet. Just running around like it had vertigo, basically. And the thing that I don't get is how can the people with the EPA and the animal rights people, um, and anybody that cares about the environment or the animals, how can they sit there and watch that and say that no, this is normal?
Yeah.
This isn't from the fire. This isn't from the train derailment. Like, I wasn't the only one who lost animals up here, and they told us everything was fine. And then months later, almost a year later, I go to a meeting and I said, you know, what about have you? I said to one of the government agencies that was at one of the town halls, I was like, what about these animals? Like, I heard these animals were dying, or I had animals that had died, and I was wondering how, if you guys heard of anything with the animals dying. Initially, ew, there's just a wasp. Hold on. The wasps are coming in because it's cold. Get off. Ew. Um, they're alive,
Speaking of animals.
but ew, he's still alive. I'm talking about animals dying, and I got to get this thing so I don't get bit.
I do see Matt in the comments. Thanks so much for joining. Matt has been with me 4 out of 4 times in EP. So it's good to see you, brother. Thanks so much for tuning in. Chrstina, I was just saying Matt's in the comments.
Yeah. Hi.
But yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how people can just be like, oh, that dog looks normal. Or it's normal that these chickens die. Like, birds are very known for being susceptible to air contamination.
Yeah.
And when this initially happened, there were a lot of birds that left. And I've noticed, because I live out in the woods, that there aren't as many birds. They are coming back, but and a lot of people, some people had noticed birds just dropping out of the sky on the freaking sidewalk. But that's normal. And I had asked the government about that. That's where we were at. And they had said, initially, you know, they had been doing necropsies, which is like a test on animals that have passed away, to see what they died of. And everything was fine. Well, then, whenever I had asked about it in private or at one of these meetings, oh no, we heard about all kinds of animals dying. There were raccoons, there were squirrels, there was deer. But I remember at the beginning, there was deer dead alongside the road, and they said, oh no, it's not from the derailment.
Yeah.
And
I
then
remember
Mark,
that one gentleman had a fox sanctuary,
yeah,
and they all died a very slow and painful and disturbing
like, people have asked, like, can, you know, the people who hunt and stuff, like, they're like, well, can we go hunting or can we go fishing? Like Mark Durno had told us, he worked with the EPA. He was like, well, I just wouldn't eat the liver. Whether it was a joke or not, like, just wouldn't eat the liver.
Oh God. I would have had some very special meals made for that man. Man.
which
Mm-mm-mm.
he is no longer, for people who don't know, he's no longer with the EPA. And he's not allowed to talk about anything with the EPA until the end of the year. That was the message that we had gotten from him when he was leaving. Um,
He was also involved with Flint, by the way, just so
yeah,
you know, those watching. Chrstina and I in Ohio, it's a one party consent state. So you are allowed to record. So I recorded a meeting that Chrstina and I did with Durno. It's over an hour and a half, and he doesn't know he's being recorded, which just proves he's the biggest dumbass because he gets recorded all the time. And he never said, "Am I being recorded?" Like, he's just a freaking idiot. And he said some things on the tape that even Aaron Brockovich was impressed with the tape. I'll just say that.
I was
That was
talk-
it was something.
I was just talking to somebody earlier today about Aaron Brockovich. Because they had asked me about how, with the class action attorneys, like when they came in, how did everything go with that? And I had said initially there were some meetings at the beginning where Aaron Brockovich had come here, and from what I heard was when she came here, she got sick, so she didn't
She
come
got
back.
some kind of eye infection or something like that. Yeah.
Something that was triggered because of her past exposures too. Um, I don't know because I don't talk with her, but when she came here a few times, people were really happy that she came here. They trusted the attorneys that she came with, which became class action attorneys.
Right.
But I haven't talked with her. I think I might have met her one time when she was here, but I haven't really talked to her, so I don't really know her. But she for a while after the class action was sold. After the class action was done. Yeah, that's what it feels like sometimes. We were just all
Highest bidder.
um which I'll make a comment about that in a minute, but when the class action was over, uh and then this stuff would happen where people weren't being paid and everything. People were like, "Well, where's Erin Brockovich when you need her?" Nobody ever heard from her.
Nope.
Um, if by chance she sees what's being said, it would be nice to hear from her because a lot of people just feel like she abandoned them.
Yeah.
But speaking of the class action and us being sold, um, I had actually made a comment to a reporter earlier that I was talking to. Like, it's really messed up. I watch a lot of crime shows. Um, and I was watching one a few months ago, and it was about this guy that would get paid to get rid of people. And he was getting paid more than Norfolk Southern paid for us to be paid individually. And I'm like, wow, really? We were all poisoned. And the government is okay with us being paid less than what a guy pays for a hit.
Yeah.
Like, that's really messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Because our lives are, and of course, like the person the guy that was talking about how what he would get paid, their lives are worth more than that too.
Yeah.
But any life is worth more than any money that you can pay in the world.
Yeah.
there's no money that's gonna, like, no amount that's gonna make up for what happened to us.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you guys got bought out today, you guys would still have, health issues potentially, PTSD, things like that. They have let this go on so long that it's nobody's life has ever been the same.
There's
And
no judging what has happened to us now. Like, that's where I'm conflicted about some things. Like, people have asked me if I would move if I had the chance to now. And I debate on it because I've been here. So we've been here so long now. It does, like, what's it going to matter? The damage is done. The only thing that could is like, well, at least now you're removed from the situation. And so, one, you can work on mentally healing. Um, Kind of like when, and this is like maybe the closest example I can give. I don't know everybody's situation with everything, but like when a soldier leaves a war zone, they're absolutely traumatized in war. A lot of them are. And when they come home, they are still traumatized. But when they're home, they have the chance to feel safer. They don't have, they don't have people shooting at them anymore. They don't have bombs falling on their heads. Um, I mean, they do have PTSD. They do still experience nightmares and everything. I'm not taking away from any of that because I've been shocked with like how we've gone through that too. It's a bit different, I'm sure, but like I don't know if it, we're living in our home, and the only way we're going to be able to start to heal is if we get out of the battlefield. But our battlefield is our home. And
yeah,
that sort of makes me think about the people who are in other countries where wars are going on, the innocent people, like the people who have nothing to do with the government, have nothing to do with the war, but they still have bombs being dropped on their heads and they're being shot at in their home.
yeah,
And they can't leave their home. They can't afford to leave their home either.
right.
They're going
Absolutely.
to experience sort of the same thing that we are.
It's yeah, and that was one thing I wanted to talk to you about that I don't want to forget. With SNAP ending for millions of people. I know when we texted the other day, you were helping to hand out food.
Mhm.
East Palestine has been a very, very low income place, especially since the derailment. People are hurting. What what have you seen, in the past week? How bad has it gotten?
The even before the derailment, there was obviously everybody knows we went through COVID, um, where businesses were hurting and things like that. But people were just starting to open back up and things were getting back to normal. Um, and then the train derailment happened and businesses were forced to close again because they had to evacuate. Um, and then the aftermath of the derailment has affected businesses. A lot of businesses have moved or closed. People have lost their businesses, and like people who've been worried about the health stuff, there's people who like to place blame on us for them losing their business. But it's not like we set out to destroy their business. We don't want anybody to lose their life.
Right.
Like,
Right.
because that's your home. That's the way you pay for your home. That's the way you pay for your children or your health and everything. But then, we've been asking for help for almost 3 years to be able to move. We were promised the class action money that we could possibly move, which I don't really see how it's enough to either move or pay for your health care later with this.
Right.
You surely can't do both. And then, we went and we haven't had any help from the derailment, really. And now there's a large portion of the area who just lost their jobs. If they did work with the government, they've been laid off or they let go. A lot of people in my area work for airlines, so they've lost their jobs. There's a lot of people who are on food stamps because they're stay-at-home parents, or they don't make enough working 3 jobs to afford a home and medical care and daycare and whatever bills and mortgages and everything else, and now 2 mortgages, some of them.
Yeah. Well, and then when you brought up a really good point when we were on the phone the other day, you said, I work for Instacart. I deliver groceries. Who can afford groceries? And that means I'll be out of work as well. So it's all relative. It's all connected.
I was working with one of the delivery services, and there's a lot of people around here who do that, even if it's just for the extra money. But that had allowed me to be home for my child. It allowed me to work and pay bills, and it allowed me to also do stuff with the derailment to try and help people. And now that there's no food stamps and people were lower on money because of the shutdown, there's no work. Even like the extra jobs are more limited. We were just at Walmart last night, and usually, today would have been the normal food stamp day. There's no food stamps, and there was not really anybody at Walmart last night. Which that, for our area where we've already been paying for medical bills because of being sick, the businesses have already started to struggle. People have already lost their jobs and extra jobs and everything. Like the shutdown, a big thing with it is everybody wants to blame one side or the other. And one thing that we have seen with the derailment is it doesn't matter which side.
Yep.
And it is very evident with the SNAP benefits. Like Donald Trump had said, "Oh, I'm not going to pay SNAP benefits even though the judges told me to. I'm not going to pay it unless this shutdown ends." You're holding people's lives hostage.
Yep.
Because their children aren't going to be able to eat.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to, because they've lost their income and they've lost their, like, you go and now you don't have food stamps. So now you're using your bill money that you were already behind on. Now you're using your bill money to pay for your food.
Right.
Now you're further behind on bills.
You're going to see a lot more people unhoused. You're going to see a lot more people in need of medical care.
And Trump wants to round up the unhoused people.
Mhm.
Then the Democrats are saying, well, it's all Trump's fault. It's because he won't do this or do that. Well, and from what I understood is some of it has to do with the illegal immigrants needing medical insurance or something. But some of those people, even I have my own opinions about the certain groups, but like some of those people, they do come here and they do work. And like out in New Mexico, for instance, there's people that come over the border and they work during the week picking our fields that nobody in America wants to do. And then they go home. They're not all bad people coming here, but, and they're not all wanting our benefits, but they just want to work. But like, so anyway, they are using the American people and the possibility of starving us to death to get what either side wants.
And I think that's so important that people start acknowledging that this is a class war, not a Democrat versus Republican. This is about, we need class solidarity. I am way more like you than I am like a rich ass politician. So people need to get over that, left, right. Politicians are not our friends. Period. End of story. They don't care about us. So it's definitely I think that's one of the reasons I connected to so many of you in East Palestine, because I feel like I just felt comfortable with you guys. I think of some of you as family. It's more, if this happened in, the burbs, it would still suck, but we know it would be fixed within 24 hours. Everything would be fine. And I think people need to understand that in certain areas, especially rural, they're just not going to get the same help. And unfortunately, in Pennsylvania, we've had a shutdown since July for state benefits and state anything having to do with state monetary benefits whatsoever, even for certain people's jobs and stuff, that's been on hold since July.
Yeah, I don't think Pennsylvania still has a budget, do they, for next
What's that?
year? Pennsylvania still doesn't have a budget for next year, do they?
No,
Yeah.
not
And
at
we've
all.
Hero, our governor, complaining about how the government needs to reopen because they shouldn't be having a shutdown. And where like they need to take these funds from the contingency fund for food stamps to help people. But one thing I didn't understand is why don't the states have a contingency fund in case the federal government drops the ball like they are now?
Exactly.
But it would
Exactly.
Pennsylvania because we don't have a budget anyway. We're the
Yeah.
state that
And for people watching, this is very interesting. Our governor happens to be none other than Josh Shapiro, that wonderful, wonderful man who is was going to be Kamala's VP, who is one of the biggest Zionist pieces of trash in the universe. He is our governor. He also said, I know a lot of people from East Palestine spoke with him, sent messages with him. He was going to help you guys out because you were Pennsylvanians, and of course did absolutely nothing.
he
He
has, still to this day he has not sued Norfolk Southern.
Nope.
And I think that for him too now the statute of limitations would be up too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So like our governor, he went and he said, we're going to hold their feet to the fire, just like
Yeah.
the people in Ohio did.
Yep.
And I had gone to my state representative. I met with him and I said, for my area, that we needed to do something, like that we needed help. And he said that he would reach out to the governor's office and he would reach out to Norfolk Southern and see what we could do. And I met with him one other time after that, and he had still been talking with them. And that was, I believe, last August. And I've since sent him messages, my representative. I've sent him messages asking to meet with him again. And it's always, well, we have to meet with the budget. We can't, we are meeting with the budget. But I've not heard from him since. And when a disaster happens, we remember back to 9/11. Where was Mayor Rudy Giuliani? He was down there at the disaster site. Josh Shapiro was on the phone when ours happened. He never came out here until a while after. Where was the President of the United States? He didn't come here till a year after. I think George Bush was down there when they were still cleaning up the buildings on 9/11.
Yeah.
And, it didn't matter if it was the Biden administration or it's the Trump administration. They've wanted to, the Trump administration has now, like, there was, I forget what the reason was for, but, there was a reason that a group of people reached out to them and they said, well, that was the Biden administration. Well, where's Trump?
Yeah.
Where's the Trump administration? Because, JD Vance came here in February, and I believe that's the last politician that was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was soon after he became the president. And there's some things that he has said, or vice president. There were things that have been said more recently about how it goes back to the man that was assassinated recently. I don't want to start some stuff, so I'm going to not say his name.
Well, that's okay, because if you say his name, they can take down my show.
Yeah, we're not going to say his name.
Yeah. I think we all know who you mean.
So we just won't. But, he played a big part in us getting to the White House. Okay. Well, so did East Palestine, because you had been sitting here talking with us for, there were times that Jake Vance's office would talk to people here, or he would, once a week.
Yeah.
And
I remember
that. RFK Jr. came here and sat in our homes, some of our homes, and they all made promises to us. Then they got in the White House and they got to Washington, D.C. and haven't been heard from since.
Yeah.
And so that's back to the letter campaign thing. It's like, trying to remind you, look, we still have unmet needs. We still need help. And that's the thing that I don't know what we're going to do right now with the shutdown, is like we did, where we can write these letters to have them go into the village by November 15th to go to JD Vance's office. But who's to say if the government's going to be open by November 15th?
Right.
So we do accepting letters until they come back.
Right.
There's no anyone.
What is something you want people to know about East Palestine that they may not know, or want to remind them?
that a lot of us are just like the rest of American people. And we had a disaster here happen, but we're still struggling, and we realize everybody else is struggling now too. um we don't think we're better than anybody else, but we have people here that are sick, and we've said it all along, is like, we are still sick, we still need help. And we've seen it all through all of this, is the only help that any of us seem to be getting or have gotten are from Americans just like us. And we had truckloads of aid come in here initially, even from people in Canada. And people care about each other. But from what I see, is even though the shutdown's going on, there's still people there in DC still getting paid. And are they still going to have Christmas dinner? And are they still going to be eating? Yeah, they're still going to eat.
Yeah.
But all of us, we have to take care of each other. It doesn't matter what political party we view and favor, and it doesn't matter like what our religions are or anything like that. We are all people, and we all have to take care of each other and help each other. Because at the end of the day, we all live, we all breathe, we all bleed red, and we all die.
Woohoo! It's true though.
Life sucks, then you die. But
yeah, no, that's what I was thinking.
like like everybody's just a person. At the end of the day, none of the rest of it matters. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter what you did for your job or how much money you have. Everybody's just a person. And people have to be more humane to each other and care more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that is a perfect way to end the show. Thank you so, so much, Christina. I always love when you come on. Anyone from EP is welcome anytime. You know that. And give my best to my little buddy and your dad and everyone else in the community. We will definitely keep the viewers updated. And again, you're welcome anytime, as always. You guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and also buy my book.
Yeah, buy it, because I started reading it and it is so good. And
Thank
you will
you. Thank you. Our friend Temujin, The Wrongful Conviction of Temujin Kensu. Definitely read it. He's going on 40 years in prison despite being proven innocent. Please read this book. And Matt, who's in the comments, he was the best editor, assistant, proofreader, layouter. I don't really know what he was, doer of all things. But yes, I'm so proud of this book. You can get it on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. Again, thank you so much, Chrstina. My best to everyone. And thanks you guys for watching.
Can I give a shout out to somebody?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and hello, we need to give a shout out to Leslie.
Yeah. Leslie. Hi.
Oh, is that who you were going to say too?
No, we had, there was some grants and everything that were just redone with getting studies done for East Palestine, and somebody who didn't get a grant. I just wanted to give her a shout out because she was great and she's helped us a lot. And that was Dr. Gollum from University of
right. Right. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Gom, for all your help. And the incredible Leslie, who is with the Government Accountability Project, who represents both me and Chrstina for our whistleblowing efforts. But they are just, when you see when you see me post things with FOIAs and anything official about EP, it has come from them. They are truly indispensable. They are incredible. So much love to Gap, absolutely.
They
um
haven't done East Palestine stuff either. They've been around for a long time.
yes, yeah, they helped Edward
Uh,
Snowden. Like, I mean,
A,
they're
a guy with
amazing.
3 Mile Island too.
What's that?
They helped a guy with 3 Mile Island as well.
Yes, they did. They did. Yes, absolutely. Well, thanks again for joining me. And thanks again for watching. Smash the like and subscribe. Thanks so much, guys. Much love.